Hey, hi everyone. So today's podcast gonna be a very special one. We have a very special guest, Ravikant Agrawal sir, the director of growth of Privado ID. So hi sir, how are you?
Hi, Akshay. Good to be here. I'm back in 2015, 2016. I believe I was in London for one of the engagement, and I went to Paris for travel with family. And वहाँ पे मेरा wallet चोरी हो गया, and
Oh,
I was in a foreign land.
that's a very bad situation, by the way.
Yeah.
Can you please tell more about what was your focus point of area when you joined the Polygon and how you are leading the team and all those things? Products on multiple chains of identity, and it's tied up with the different AI agents. So how they gonna on X chain and one agent on Y chain? How they gonna resolve the claims if they want to resolve this?
No. I think that's a great question, actually. I think I would say that we are talking about 2-3 things in partners in the past as well with JIO Coin. This is gonna be mammoth in terms of the adoption. So kudos to the Polygon team. And
Identity in gaming sector. So what do you think? Digital identity, how it will play a crucial role for the gamers or the developers?
Good switch over. I would say that I see the developer spark coming out of you now.
Yeah.
So
Hey, hi everyone. So today's podcast gonna be a very special one. We have a very special guest, Ravikant Agrawal sir, the director of growth of Privado ID. So hi sir, how are you?
Hi, Akshay. Good to be here. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great, sir. And thank you very much for your precious time and to spare some time with us to have a normal chat around the trends and the technology. So आपका background काफी interesting है, sir. So can you please tell me about your journey कि आप Web3 space में कैसे interest आया आपका and where exactly you started?
Sure. Yeah, I think I've been previously working mainly from a business and strategy consulting, helping my large financial institution clients for emerging technologies, trying to help them what is the new techs in the space that they could leverage for offering up, let's say, a mortgage customer onboarding and processes like that. So it all started with a very funny incident back in 2015, 2016. I believe I was in London for one of the engagement, and I went to Paris for travel with family. And वहाँ पे मेरा wallet चोरी हो गया, and
Oh,
I was in a foreign land.
that's a very bad situation, by the way, in
Yeah. So
a foreign country. If you miss something,
exactly, man. I think foreign land, and if your wallet gets stolen, you are left with no money. I think that was a tricky
yeah.
situation, but thankfully, I was able to manage with the help of my friend out there. But that made me realize that what is the best way in order to get an instant money cross border. And that is where I first
Okay.
got introduced to Bitcoin, saying, "यार कुछ ऐसा बना हुआ है technology which can actually help us in terms of getting a
Hmm.
remittance directly, very instantly anywhere in the world as and when we want it." And that's where my curiosity to learn about this technology continued to grow. And then since then, this crazy technology has been always keeping my attention. And I started attending some meetup groups back in there, and then I started my own meetup group in Pune, August 2016, in order to what is the space out here, who are the how can we grow a community and bring in more enthusiasts to learn together about this particular technology. And
Mhm.
since then, I think it has been a smooth growth. I was collaborating with many young brains here in order to try and see what can be built together. We have been participating in some hackathons and trying to work together with some startups. And then I had my own venture where we try to create blockchain based product back in 2018, 2019 ish. And then after that, Polygon happened. And
Yeah.
it was amazing experience working at Polygon for 3+ years in different capacities. And that was my exposure towards more public chain. And I think
Mhm.
it has been working across different verticals of blockchain. So that's the journey.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing, sir. So, can you please tell more about what was your focus point of area when you joined the Polygon and how you are leading the team and all those things.
Yeah, I think.
And that I think Privado ID is nothing but the Polygon Labs product only, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so I would touch upon that. I think while
Yeah.
working with Polygon, I was also inclined towards an identity solution and feel that data and privacies are also important aspect. Polygon has this product called as Polygon ID previously, and that got spin off
Mm,
some 6 7 months back and rebranded to Privado ID. So the intention here was how can we take this
mm,
very very tech mature solution to
mm,
multiple other ecosystem outside of Polygon ecosystem, and that's where we rebranded to more neutral name, and we wanted to
mm.
take the solution to many Web3 ecosystems as well as out into Web2 space. And at the moment, I'm looking after partnerships with several consulting and system integrators in order to bring that kind of a multiplier effect for taking the solution out into the space, and also developing AI vertical for Privado.
Okay. So now you touch base upon the AI. So how you are thinking to integrate AI with identity? Like, what's your thought process on that part?
So I feel that when it comes to AI broadly, we can classify that into maybe three verticals. So we got data that needs to be ingested into compute, and with compute we get inferences, right? So I think if I feel that there is utility of or other use cases for identity across all the three verticals. And we have been trying to work with several AI startups and trying to explore what potentially might be the early set of use cases that could be applicable across all these three verticals. So for example, let's say when we are talking about data, which is going to be the fuel power for making the consistent progress in the AI space, we need to ensure that we are able to provide that quality data, right? So if I quote Mustafa Suleiman from Microsoft AI CEO, he has been talking about that we would be short of quality text data by the end of 2026. That's where we would AI models would have consumed all existing AI data, or rather quality text data out in the space. So if you are that close in terms of consuming the data for the AI model progress, we need to continuously create more quality data, and that's where I believe verification of the users who can provide a certain type of data which is more quality data that can be consumed for the model. So think about it, if we need to create a model which could be trained related to, let's say, wildlife, or maybe related to skin rashes, or maybe waste management, we need a
Mm,
specialist in each of
mm,
the area in order to create that kind of content. And that can come when we are verifying the user, verifying the skills of the users, and ensuring that it is not a synthetic data generated by bot, but this may be also classified by real humans. I think those are some of the things that can be easily enabled with an identity layer in there. When it comes to the other segments of AI, whether it is compute, how can we can have the proof of resources and proof of compute. I think those kind of use cases also established. And when it comes to inference side of it, I think that is where it get even more interesting. So think about that.
mm.
We all are hearing about the agents, and when it comes to agents,
Right.
if I try to draw an analogy of agent growing to a stage where we all use multiple mobile apps today. So if we are seeing an accelerated growth of AI agents,
Mm,
we might soon go towards the same era where we have seen an spike in terms of the mobile app being created for every utility that we want, right? But if we reach to that
right.
era where we got apps for doing everything, and we are drawing an analogy of
Mm,
agent doing most of those things for us in the future, how do we classify good agents versus the agents which are not so good, right? So that is where we might need an agent identity, agent reputation. So today if I go and let's say download a scanning application for my mobile, right, I typically see it's got 4.3 rating out of 5. It got 1 million downloads. There are so many reviews being written by users who have used this mobile application in the past. We need to have similar kind of reputation system when it comes to agent, right? So that I can trust those agents when they are
mm,
listed on a marketplace, so that if I'm taking an agent or subscribing to an agent service for, let's say, my trading purpose, or for my assistance purpose, or for my productivity gain, I have some way to differentiate among those hundreds of agents doing the same thing based upon
mm.
review and rating. And I think again, for that, we need to have those kind of unique identifiers that can be associated to an agent so that the reputation can also be associated and so on. So very, very optimistic
Yeah.
of that kind of an identity layer that can help the overall growth for the AI space.
Right. And very interesting use case. You mentioned it in a very well form. AI need the identity, but now I have one question. When we are talking about the AI and identity with blockchain or without blockchain, because how it there is a very big problem what I can see as of now when you're talking about the identity. It has to be, let's say you have created any claim and you are you want to verify that claim. It's are you the real person or XYZ for the claim to resolve. You must need a one platform, right? A single platform, or we can say the chain. Let's say if you have multiple products on multiple chains of identity and it's are tied up with the different AI agents, so how they gonna, one agent on X chain and one agent on Y chain, how they gonna resolve the claims if they want to resolve this
Yeah, I
claim?
think.
That is a interoperability is a big challenge
Yeah,
nowadays. So is there any
no, no. I think that's a great question. Actually, I think I would say that we are talking about two three things in here. First of all, we are talking about communication between agent. That itself is a
Mhm.
one type of, I would say, work stream that we all need to think about. How can we make that communication go
Correct.
more stream? Then we are talking about agents which are deployed on chains, right?
On
So
chain.
that's another category of agent. So maybe to classify, we are talking about use cases which are which required some kind of an interaction on chain, and then there can be other tons
Mhm.
of agents which may not require any interactions on chain, right? So let's say
Correct, correct.
classifying them Web 2 agents versus Web 3 agents, right? So we are,
Web3
yeah.
agents.
So across this many, I would say across this two three questions, let me just try and share my view. What I feel is, agent to agent communication is going to be super important for driving any viable use cases, right? So we could have a workflow where we talk about the agents interacting in certain structure manner, but then if we need to make it more dynamic, where the agent A is not sure, depending upon a context, it may require to talk to agent B, and maybe in certain cases it goes to agent X, right? I think this is where, first of all, agent need to authenticate, agent need to understand whether they are talking to the right agent, are those agent classified in order to service for those kind of a query, and then the communication between the two agent would happen. Again, when we are talking about communication, there would be levels of, or rather the types of communication, whether it is just purely messages that get transferred, or it is the exchange of data, exchange of payment, exchange of information that is more sensitive, and so on, right? So I think that would be a evolution that we all would see in terms of how those handshaking between the agents happen, how those data exchange between the agents would happen, and eventually the payments as well. But then when it comes to the interop side of it, which is more typical to the Web3 world, I would say this is where
Right.
I would say that there are again multiple approaches. What Privado is also doing is another interesting approach
Mhm.
where we are letting some of the identity and reputation of an agent on chain one, which can be also accessible on chain two. And this is something we are enabling with a couple of components that we have built over a period of time from Privado's perspective. So we are calling this as unified identity. Like we have a chain abstraction model on a similar
Mhm.
thought process. We have been working on unified identity so that if it's a user, and it could be a real human or it could be an agent, where they have done certain interactions and then there are certain identifier or an identity on chain one, can that be readable
Mhm.
on chain two? And that way we can make sure that the applications on that particular chain would be able to utilize this credentials across chain, and they would get that kind of a unified identity interactions. Now, coupling this along with that, once you identify this particular agent or a user, then you can open up the other communication channel, whether for messages, for payments, or for exchange of information. So I think it's still very, very new, and I think we do not have those
Interesting.
many use
Yeah.
cases, or I would say solution out there. But I'm sure that the builders out there are really working hard and being innovatives in terms of building these things.
Correct, correct. Because from very long time, this is a big problem for most of the businesses as
Yeah.
well. If they want to expand and if they want to try do the collaboration with the other
Yeah.
chain, and they complete this on a different chain. So this is not just for the identity, for any supply chain and other most of the use cases also they have the same problem
Yeah.
for the
And I
traceability on
think
all those
think about
chains.
it.
They cannot switch the data from one chain to the another chain.
100%. And I think about this, I would say that अगर
Hmm.
मैं अपने आप को एक इंडिविजुअल यूजर भी देखता हूँ, for me
Mhm.
I might hold dozens of agents, and those agents
Right,
might
right.
be in different environments. अगर मुझे मेरे agents को ही आपस में बात करना है for anything to do something more meaningful, let's say booking up for my travel itinerary, or helping me in terms of drafting up some complex analysis for, let's say, doing the fundamentals of a particular company and so on. I think that would require the agent to talk to each other. So what you're asking is certainly a way forward in order to create more practical and applicable use cases.
Right, right, right. Maybe in future we'll build something
I think faster.
like the
Yeah,
agent is agent is communicating to each other and they hold cross-border IDs as well, like cross-chain IDs. Perfect. So what's your thought process on identity in gaming sector? So what do you think digital identity, how it will play a crucial role for the gamers over there
yeah.
or the developers?
A good switch over. I would say that gaming has been one of the vertical that has grown up substantially, and it's such a big vertical. I would say that not many of us have realized that it has grown up to the massive vertical.
Massive.
Maybe combining many other forms of entertainment, it is still multi-x than other forms of entertainments.
Now it's becoming a mainstream for so many users. Now people are investing time and efforts and money to be the full-time
Yeah,
gamer and all
because
those
it
things.
goes across the
It's becoming
spectrum, no?
mainstream.
It goes spectrum wise. I
Right.
mean, a kid of 2 years still have the accessibility to the digital surface, and then until you are a senior, you are still playing those rummies and three pattis and other types of games. So I think it has covered the entire spectrum. So no matter of your age, gender, but you have something in the gaming segment to entertain yourself. So I feel that that is where we feel this is an interesting vertical not to left behind. And again, from a gaming perspective, there are certainly very interesting use cases that we have seen in the space. When we talk about, let's say, if I played 200 hours of game on platform one, and I've generated my
Mhm.
reputation in certain form that I'm a pro gamer, but that is locked in into one platform. How can I that take
Right.
that reputation, my gaming reputation, to a platform two, and I get that beta access, or I would say the whitelisting done for certain types of new game because I've been a pro gamer on platform one, right? So that kind of an
Mhm.
unlock that can be possible with the help of digital identity, and we have been seeing at Privado, some considerations and implementations in this direction. The other segment could
Mhm.
be where a user may be playing certain type of data or games, and then there is valuable information that is being generated, and that way I would be able to contribute some of my learning data back into the model training. Again, connecting back to the use case one, there can be gamer data DAO that can also be created, where I may be incentivized in terms of the data contribution that I've done, and that may be utilized by either the game builders or the models again. So I think the very interesting use cases, and I feel that this would unlock a lot of flexibility for the gamers to take
Right.
their reputation when they are playing across different games, and gaming platform would also find it easy to onboard more quality gamers based upon certain types of skills or the past types of games that they've played.
And not just the reputation, they can track their assets with respect to their identities as well, whatever they have earned in the XYZ game and all those things. I think that could also properly track and give the ownership of the who is that real user instead of making it everything anonymous and just lost when you switch the platform, everything is lost. That cannot
Yeah,
be. It's a very, very interesting case.
you're right. I think
Right.
that has been, to a larger degree, has been one of the reasons why we have been talking about ownership aspect, and Web3 provides that kind of an ownership aspect. So, I think very very bullish in terms of that ownership aspect that can go in multiple phases outside of gaming as well.
Right.
But I think this is where, couple with the identity aspect, which is also decentralized in nature, and then truly ownership of your assets, whether it's a gaming assets and things like that. It's gonna be very interesting time to see.
Yeah. And when you're talking about gaming, so I would like to touch upon the metaverse. What's your view on metaverse and how it will take time to be a real to see the real matured metaverse? So what's your point on that?
Yeah, I think if I look at primarily from a trend perspective, I think it was very trendy in 2023. There were several implementations that we're talking about how can we improve the experiences either for
Right.
your education side or your commerce side. They have gaming side. I think there have been several innovative projects who have tried on this one. Somehow I felt that the business model has been very sustainable at that point in time, and that's where the trend has been taking a different path. However, I believe metaverse has not been only a Web3 story, right? Metaverse has been in
Hmm.
different form or shape even before we started calling them as metaverse. And I
Meta.
think
Right.
those kind of experience building is something that I feel is gonna come again, especially when we are
Hmm.
talking about the way we wanted to all live, which is getting more and more remote, more and more virtual. I think it's gonna be
Right.
helping in some shape or form for us to start doing those activities in this kind of a virtual environment, right? So I feel that with the optimizations in the hardware, optimizations in the type of
Hmm.
quality of user experience that would grow, the kind of network bandwidth that is required in order to make it happen, and at the same time, some sustainable business model. It should not be that I'm just roaming around in the metaverse doing nothing, and it should not be just for the sake of having your digital avatar and just moving
Right.
the space. But I think it has to have some meaningful, utility or engagement that can be brought in for the users. All of those
Right.
requisite in terms of a better hardware, better internet connectivity, qualities
Hardware.
of
Correct.
surfaces that can give me a smooth experience. I think those are prerequisite to take this technology ahead.
Right. So yeah, you mentioned it very correctly. The hardware is a challenge. Internet is a challenge in the vast, like in India, majority places there is no proper internet. Even in the city, most of the time we face that there is a lot of internet glitch. So this is a big challenge, and most important, the utility. Nowadays, when the metaverse created, they have created, yeah, some person is moving here and they are watching some screens and all. That's it. But what exactly they are doing inside it? Right. So that's the very important part of it. Until unless we design a proper real world use case to that metaverse, it's not gonna be a again in trend. But yeah, it has a huge scopes, vast lot of opportunities in that, and it's not just like a web 3. It has more related to the AR VR web 3 versions like digital 3D modeling and all those
Yep.
things. Amazing. And do you want to touch base few things on DeFi? How identity is shaping DeFi, and how can identity solutions contributed in DeFi space?
Yeah, I think DeFi has been fundamental bedrock for many activities that happen in Web3. I think, like various other use cases that we have been talking about, if we go to the fundamental use case, right, for DeFi, let's say, can we enable some kind of an under collateralized lending based upon the kind of activities that a user or a wallet may have done on chain, but then also couple it up with the off chain user credentials, user identity in some shape or form that can bring in together a 360-degree view for a user. And that can unlock some of the interesting product in DeFi. Under collateralized lending could be one. In fact, I feel that with DeFi, a lot of use cases that are also appearing where it needs to set up the governance part of it, and with identity, you can
Mm.
even simplify the governance aspect. How can we ensure that one user, one vote, and there has to be weight for the type of user. I would say user bringing in their kind of credibility into the mix. At the same time, certain projects have actually more than one token, so the ownership across the two token, and then still bringing in that kind of a privacy oriented voting for that particular user, ensuring that they are the right stakeholders, they are the owner across all the eligible parameter for participating in the governance. So I think this is another interesting area to be further explored. Somehow, what I personally have observed is that Web3 is not really too keen in terms of adding up those layers until there is some kind of an need for a user experience improvement or some kind of a compliance to be added. So we are still early stages from the DeFi perspective, but there are, I would say, trade fire related use cases which are coming and trying to utilize the, or rather bringing in that capital which is sitting outside of the fence to mainstream Web3. And for that, I think there needs to be a layer of compliance and layer of identity that needs to be enabled, so that all this capital which is sitting out of the fence, they can come into the mainstream Web3.
Okay, amazing. Got it. So I just, when you are discussing these things, I have a curious question related to Privado ID. So when you are saying we are building identity solutions, so in terms of usage, if someone, let's say I'm a developer and I want to use the Privado ID for my solutions, I'm building one solution. So what are the steps to use that Privado ID, or I explicitly need to connect with the team and then do something with my use case, or independently I can do the solution without connecting to the provider ID. So it's SDK based solution. So how exactly it
I
works?
see the developer spark coming out of you now.
Yeah.
So it has to be that way. Yeah, I think primarily I would say that we will not scale if we are, if you are expected to have an interaction with somebody from the team for any developer to build anything meaningful with Privado. I think that's not a scalable model. We might end up having an army of, solution engineers or develop people if we need to cater to those many users. But then the
Correct.
way we are doing it, going through the self-serve model where we got
Mhm.
brilliant dev docs, though they are continuously getting improved. But there are also various reference implementation. There are projects who have shared their case studies out in the space for getting started. But I think the most simplest one is, you can imagine this to be a set of, three stakeholders when you are building up a solution. So you got somebody who should be issuing you the credential, then you as a
Mhm.
holder storing those credentials, then you need some capabilities in terms of verifying those credentials, right? So depending upon what is exactly you are building, what are the type of capability that you need to build, there are documentations that are available on all the three sites. But I think
Mhm.
just to let you know, maybe in a simple form, because most of the time people tend to think it is too complex in order to get even started, right? So I would rather
Right.
paint the picture in terms of how this technology would work and enable many of the use cases. So consider this to be a question answer mechanism to verify a particular user,
Mhm.
right? So for example,
Right.
if you're driving on a road and an RTO officer or a traffic officer actually wanted to see that you are holding up a right driving license, that is where they become a verifier who is asking a user,
Mhm.
show me your driving license. And this driving license typically issued by a state government and the traffic department, they becomes the issuer, right? So connecting the dots here again, somebody who is issuing, in this case it's a traffic department, somebody holding it is the individual user, and who is verifying is the traffic police officer. So in this case, I think
Got
is basically under the hood what happens is there is a question answer interaction, question answer type of interaction, where a traffic police officer might send you a question in the form of a QR code, and me as a user scanning that QR code and responding to that question with the type of information that they want, whether they are asking me, are you above 18? And that way my mobile application holding that kind of a credential issued by the traffic department, proving that yes, I'm above 18. So that question has been responded with an answer. All happen cryptographically, not required to share any information unless you don't need to, and happen very very seamlessly without any probability of fraudulent activity in between.
Okay, so I have one more another technical question only. So is it whatever activity we are performing, right? Issuing the credentials, verifying the credentials, and the cryptographic activity. Is it on the Polygon chain, or it's like a independent stuff?
So for majority of this thing, there is a very minimum touch point to blockchain, right? There is this is where we have been differentiating and innovating with our technology, where the blockchain interaction is
Mm-hmm.
left to very, very minimum. Now, you can use this for any EVM chains. You need not have to be hooked up to only one particular chain. And that is why Privado at the moment is operating at five different chains. And the plan is to go across multiple chains as well. Started with
Okay.
five of them, and EVM chains at the moment will eventually go also to the non-EVM chains.
Amazing. Got it. So it's not just the EVM compatible solution as of now, and you are trying to expand it to the other chain as well.
Correct.
Amazing. Perfect. Nice. So I have now one more question with respect to the real world assets. You may have seen real world assets is booming a lot in this space now. So many people are investing in that. So how identity will be the key role for a key pioneer or key important parameter for shaping the digital world, digital asset world solutions.
Yeah, I think that's another vertical I would say which has been picking up a lot of attention in the recent time, and the fundamental remains the same, right? When we are talking about real world asset, we still need to be compliant. So there is an angle where the user needs to hold certain compliances, whether let's say are they eligible in order to interact with those kind of tokenized real world assets, right? Are they coming from any of those sanctioned country which may prohibit their interactions? So I think those kind of compliances rules still be applicable. And if you are taking the real world asset into more lighter set of assets, like example, let's say if you wanted to hold a Pokemon digital twin, right? Is there any kind of an entry barrier for type of age before you go and make those kind of digital asset purchases, right? So age verification could be another angle. Similarly, if you're talking about the users that needs to be whitelisted for any kind of real world asset that are getting tokenized on particular chain, you need to get whitelisted based upon your credentials and past history, past activities, and some form of reputation that you may hold, right? So I would say the fundamental with identity would always be similar. You can apply it onto vertical 1 to vertical 2 and vertical 3, but then depending upon the type of use case, your expectation of data would change, right? Whether you need to see age in certain cases, whether you need to see the KYC detail in certain cases, where you need to see the education, health data, and so on. So I think depending upon the type of use case, the interaction would change, but the fundamental more or less would remain same. So with RWA, I would say the type of use cases that we have been experiencing is reusability of the credentials, right? So I've done certain activity
Hmm.
once, I've got my, let's say, KYC or my non-belonging to a sanctioned country and so on, and then I reuse it for my other type of interactions when I'm doing, let's say, purchase of another RWA token, or I'm registering myself for a whitelisting, or I'm trying to do a trade with a certain type of trader.
Right. Amazing. And not just that, the official documentations involved in all those processes. I think that could also be digitalized and converted as a identity and bind it with this MR identity. I think
Yeah,
that could be the one.
yeah, I think that document is a much bigger game as well. However, I feel that when it comes to documentation, the existing technology can do a better job as well. At the same time,
Hmm.
NFTs can be translated
Yeah.
as a metadata. I mean, can hold the metadata of a document, and they can also be utilized in some shape and form as another digital twin for those type of document. I think the verification, whether it is the verification for user as an
Hmm.
individual, organization, or machines, I think these are the ways where we see it's going to be important from the type of stakeholder that we believe we would be participating in the early stages.
Right, right. Correct, absolutely correct. So now I have to take here a little bit switch over. I want to call about the trends. And recently I heard a news about JIO Coin and the collaboration with Polygon. It has launched with the Polygon, right? So what's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that mainstream adoption is picking up quite well, and The team at Polygon has cracked it up with various partners in the past as well. With JIO Coin, this is going to be mammoth in terms of the adoption. So
Yeah.
kudos to the Polygon team. And I feel that this has actually opened up a lot of segue, because if you are bringing in that volume of users, and especially users across all paradigm, right? So you are having people
All
who
good.
are digitally very, very savvy versus people who may not be that savvy, but then they would get a glimpse in terms of how this technology can help in terms of simple use cases, let's say the loyalty point and so on. So I think it's going to be opening up a lot of interesting use cases and application. And with that size of an organization, I'm sure they would bring this kind of technology to mainstream. In fact, help governments to create those kind of framework that can open up opportunity for many young, small, innovative startup also to take advantage of it.
Right. I think I have heard one more news. IRCTC, the railway ticketing app. I think that he's also did some experiment with Polygon or onboarded on Polygon for ticketing issuing. Right. So this is very interesting, and happy to see government and the big player will try to approach the Web3 space. It's always a win situation for the developers and the Web3 business people who are trying to build the solutions and try to scale the situations of the Web3. It's amazing. I think there are now it is a time when we can say, previously everyone used to say blockchain is a very new and it's a baby. Now it's a time it's maturing now. It's getting mature. It's get the acceptance is increasing in the community. It's a very good thing. So I
Yeah.
would like to like yeah. So I would like to know more about uh, what could be the future trend around the blockchain other than this. Do you, if you think like that could be the most interesting one, the new people should start engaging in towards that. So what could be the future trends with respect to you? Like we should invest more time or focus on that part.
So I particularly feel fascinated with the convergence of AI and Web3. To me, what it looks like, it's going to be helping in terms of creating those kind of product market fit, where we can have the solution capability with AI being at the front, but then blockchain being the backend for those AI solutions. And blockchain actually help in terms of bringing in more talented people together in a decentralized format, contributing their innovative ideas, plugging them together, and then getting incentivized as and when that solution is being rolled out into the space and generating revenue. At the same time, for the users also, how can that be how can the Web3 incentive model would be the model that can help in terms of bringing early user onboarded for the AI products. So I feel that the convergence of AI and Web3 would be very interesting. We would see a lot of more practical use cases in times to come. We started seeing the agent to agent comms, as we discuss on virtuals and other platforms, who are trying to scratch up the surface with very innovative use cases at the moment, but more practical use cases to come soon. And with blockchain and AI, I think we would be able to accelerate the overall innovation.
Amazing. So your recommendation is like if someone want to start something, start looking towards blockchain and start thinking how can you integrate with the AI. If you are looking into the if you are already doing something in AI, start looking towards blockchain and try to collaborate this technology and try to find out the use case, the real use cases where we can collaborate both the technologies together.
I mean,
Amazing.
ideally, yeah,
That's
that's where the innovator should come in. I think it should not be
right.
technology first. It has to be problem first, right? What is the problem
Problem
that
first.
you
It's
are
a use
solving?
case
Yeah,
first.
exactly. I
Right.
think you should not be forcing up a technology just for the sake of doing it. But yeah, I think it would be difficult to also avoid AI from the type of the projects that you may want to start. If nothing more, at
Right.
least it would be utilized for expediting the overall development of the product, right? Whether it is the content for your website, or whether it is writing up the code, or just creating those beautiful images for your project.
Right, amazing. So I think we have spent pretty well time and we had a very good discussion around all the use cases. So now at the end of this podcast, I have a few questions. What could be the what's your guidance for the new devs or new entrepreneurs who are just started with the Web3 space?
I personally feel, that for the developers as well as for the people who wanted to experience this technology, they should spend time leaving this technology and not just learning the technology. And what I mean by that is,
Hmm.
it should not be just go watch a YouTube video to know about the technology, but go experience it. Go spend
Right.
some time in terms of playing around with those applications. Keep some small money in order to go buy one NFT, spend and do some, let's say, borrowing, lending on a DeFi protocol, or maybe do make an transactions on chain between chain one and chain two and things like that. And when it comes to, let's say, the convergence of AI and Web3 that we have been talking about, try those kind of models that
Hmm.
are pretty popular, see the kind of experience that is bringing in, and that way the learning can be, I would say, built with more confidence, where we understand what is getting built, how it is being built, why that kind of an
Hmm.
asset ownership is being enabled with the help of Web3, and how does it matter to a individual user and an innovator. I think those kind of experiences, and uh, taking taking a dive into the pool and not just standing outside and learning swimming, I think that kind of a method might help.
Amazing. Absolutely. Very well portrayed. Very important. Like first, if you want to be in that space, you have to experience that space. You have to ready to be your hand dirty if you want to create a very good model, right? You cannot sit outside and just see, yeah, when you will be grow, will then I'll jump. It's not like that. You have to be there from day one. Amazing. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and this amazing, valuable inputs. So, is there anything for me, or do you want to add anything from this?
No, I would say that we all are in a very interesting era at the moment, and we are at the forefront in terms of seeing what is coming. So I
Hmm.
feel that it's a time that we all should cherish. Which we should all be receptive in terms of the innovation that is happening and experience, and be part of that.
Yeah, yeah. And just last question at the moment, I have. What do you think? What would be the blockchain space after 10 years? What's your vision? How it will change, and what's your prediction, sort of thing? How it will be after 10 years?
Forget 10 year, man. I think it's difficult to say यहाँ से 2 साल बाद भी कैसा रहेगा. So I think 10 years not a term anymore. I think we have to start counting in terms of short cycles of innovation, because it's changing very fast. यार बहुत
Very
yeah,
fast.
जितने speed से ये change हो रहा है, I think nobody can predict where we have moved in last few years, and I think the overall acceleration is much more faster. The development cycle has shortened up, so I feel that we may start seeing a unicorn being built by 5 people. And in fact, I keep hearing on the net and reading about reading from the thinkers like Naval Ravikant, in terms of it's
Hmm.
not going to be too far where we would have a unicorn built by one person unicorn, right? I think those are the type of trends that are out in the space, and feel super excited of overall things that are happening, the acceleration that we are seeing in terms of development and the type of innovations that we are building. So I think it's tough. It's time to be part of it, and try and see how we can learn and contribute together.
Yeah, just enjoy the moment. Just, yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, sir. It was great talking to you, and yeah, we'll connect again in future with the amazing concept on the
Thank you
podcast.
for having me. It was amazing speaking here.
Thank you so much, sir.